Namaste, my dear Yoga Mitras. We are here for the 12th episode of Kapi, that's Kashaya and personal interaction with a yogi. Today on the 12th episode, we have yet another stalwart who is joining with us from Melbourne, Australia, the founder of Vasudeva Kriya Yoga, a wonderful yoga sadhaka as well as a sikshaka, Shri Yogacharya Rajendra Enkanmole. We welcome you, sir, for this talk show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Subbubai.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a pleasure always to be with you, talk with you. Today, I take the privilege of talking more about your sadhana and your life, the work which you've been doing for all these years. So we are very privileged in this session. We are connecting with a lot of yogacharyas from different parts of the globe, and people all over are also welcoming this. I'm receiving very good feedback. They're able to learn a lot. They say what we can't learn from the classes, because classes you go only technically talking the techniques, teaching that and all those things. So here in this session we are talking many things about their own sadhana and their ideas, their contribution. That is the wonderful thing which we are doing. So I would like to just start with asking you, Rajendra ji, that you being native of India, originally you're from Karnataka, from Bangalore. So you went and started there at Australia. And now today, the center, Vasudeva Kriya Yoga, I think it has more than 17 centers in different parts of the country there. And to my best of knowledge, as and when you come here to India, whenever, I think yearly 2-3 times, you definitely make a visit here. And whenever you come, you make it a point to teach here also in India, also going to different places. And especially to ashrams, gurukulas, to the traditional mutts, you go and teach there. That is something amazing, because even when you come here, you don't try to spend time in studios and teaching like that. You go to ashrams, gurukulas, villages and do a wonderful seva. That's amazing with you. So I would like to ask you, like, Anna, how was it when you started teaching yoga at a different country, to Australia? How did the people receive there, and how is the situation today? I see people, have taken yoga far and wide. But when you started, years back, probably in the early 2000s, when you started, so how was the reception there? How did you start your teaching yoga there, Rajendra ji?
Thank you, Subbubai sir. Thank you for the nice introduction. And at the beginning, you said it's a 12th series. Yeah. And interestingly, this the yoga school I run, it is called as Vasudeva Kriya Yoga. Its foundation is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It has
Dvadashakshari mantra.
Dvadashakshara, and coincides with 12 series. And it's a divine blessing. It itself shows it's a divine grace is there. Yes. And I moved out of India in 1993. I was there in New Zealand for about 7 years, and since 2000 I'm in Australia. In 1996, I was doing my master's in engineering, and I saw the poster on the bookshop. It's a yoga by Paramahamsa Swami Maheshwarananda. Poster was there. So as a curious person, I went there where he was staying, and I did the cooking also. It's a Western country, and I was still at that time.
Where was it? Where did you do this?
In 1996.
Where was it? Where was you? Where was
it? Christchurch, New Zealand. And, we cooked the food, and in the evening he had a lecture series, and the yoga, the message of yoga, something attracted me, something connected with me. And Paramahamsa Swami Maheshwarananda initiated me into the path of yoga. From then, everything started happening from within. I myself haven't gone to any traditional schools for learning yoga, no formal qualifications. And things started happening. It's coming to me naturally. And for Shastras, I had a natural affinity, is to get attracted to the scriptures. It's traditional scriptures, and something was connected with me. And when I moved to Australia, I hosted many Swamiji's programs also. One such Swamiji was from Divine Life Society. You mentioned other day our great sage Swami Shivanandji is, you come from that tradition. You are related to that tradition. Swami Swami Ramaswarupananji, he came to Ramaswarupananji. He was there in Melbourne. I hosted his program. He was there before in Adelaide. Adelaide also I met him, and he came to Melbourne. I hosted the program in Vivekananda Yoga Center in Melbourne. There was a center in Melbourne. I organized the program. And he started talking for about, spoke maybe for 10 minutes. And he said, now I will hand over to Rajendra. He will continue. And he got off the stage. And I was pushed into yoga. And I was from then, from 2004, and when I started, we started taking the class from at home. I invited few friends, like-minded friends. Slowly, our hall became small, and so we moved to another bigger house, a friend's house. That hall also became small. So we decided to hire a hall, and on a weekly basis. And that hall, it became very popular, and people started asking, can you, it's Melbourne is a very spread out city, from one end to another end, maybe around 70, 80 kilometers, very spread out. And people used to ask, can you start there? Can you start in this one? So because of the demand, word of mouth, and we started various centers. And now we have 17 centers across, and in Bangalore also we have a center. And traditional, yesterday I had another interview, so they also asked the same question. How did you brand yourself in front of Iyengar Yoga or Hatha Yoga? Hatha Yoga is there, and Vinyasa Yoga, and Hot Yoga, various yogas are there. How did you pitch? How did you, was it not an uphill task? And for me, yoga is divine. And yoga, none of these schools, and it is more obvious now in India also, hardly any Adhyatma is spoken about. Your school is has a divine name, Adhyatma Yoga. Adhyatma is hardly spoken about. At the beginning, at best, they will do Om 3 times, and at the end,
Om
Namaste. Namaste.
And
Namaste. It's finished. And yoga is divine. Yoga, Adhyatma is there. Adhyatma, without Adhyatma, yoga is nothing but a gymnastics. How well I can bend, how well I can twist. And since I had a liking for Adhyatma Shastra, and this is a platform, I thought I should bring a new dimension to yoga. Otherwise, if this is not there, maybe in 10 years time, 20 years time, Westerners, they call each asana by downward dog or cow posture, dog posture, all Englishized name. Maybe 10 years, 20 years time, they may patent some of the asanas, and they may claim that this belongs to this one.
Yeah, already now, all these are happening in a way. These are all happening in a way.
Happening. My interest is to preserve the tradition and attack from the Western side, from the West. It is difficult to do it, to reach it to the West. My interest, preserve the tradition, our Adhyatma, and make an effort. I never call the asana while doing downward dog. I give the Adho Mukha Svanasana. People has to learn, and slowly that is my passion, and it is well received across.
Very nice. So you said, like when you got in touch with various Mahatmas like Swami Maheshwaranandji or Swami Ramswarupanandji and all these Mahatmas. So it is they who influenced your life and, brought you into, or you, as you said, they pushed you into the field of yoga and Adhyatma, into spirituality. So what were you doing otherwise when you had moved to New Zealand? You said you were studying there, you were doing a master's degree there. Then when you went to Australia, what was your original profession? And I'm sure initially you were doing yoga for some time, teaching yoga, and eventually it has taken, your whole life has now got immersed in the field of yoga. So how did this transition happen from what you were doing as an engineer, and then how did you move into yoga full time? Now today what you are?
And yoga I was doing right from my childhood. And from the school, after finishing the school, I used to go to Makkalakoota in Chamarajpete. They used to teach in the evening on the ground. We used to learn yoga, so asanas, mainly asana part.
Yes.
And I was doing that one. And right from my childhood, I had interest for Adhyatma.
Yes.
And somehow, after I met my Guruji, everything started aligning. And still that aligning. And in Melbourne, there are many Mahatmas like our Chinmaya Mission talks, or Swami Damodaranandji from Ramakrishna Ashram used to come often, and various Mahatmas. And slowly that I started linking at Adhyatma and how it can associate.
So what I was asking is, what were you doing otherwise during those days? Was your profession, what was it, and how did this influence happen there?
No,
I understood that you had a samskara from childhood, right? Yeah. From childhood days, you had a samskara during school days of attending yoga, and at one side the Shastric background, all those were one influence. Then when you started inviting Swamijis and hosting them, and also, so their influence started coming to you. But until then, so you must have been in some, profession where you were doing, and then slowly, eventually, that went off, and slowly you got more into yoga. So what was that?
No, it didn't go off. And I did my master's in business administration and master's in engineering in New Zealand. And I was working there. I moved to Melbourne, and now I am also working for Siemens.
So even now you are working in Siemens, and yoga, as it was in the beginning, now also it goes hand in hand with your profession of working in the Siemens.
Yes, and when all the weekends, long weekends, evenings, I spend for the community. And the general belief is most of the people, when I talked, they used to say that, if you had to add value to the community, you had to be a renunciate. You had to, I'm not a Swami to do that one. And I thought even a householder can add value to the community. There is no excuse that you can't do. If there is a will,
it is for this answer that I asked this question, so that people get to know that you are not completely given up everything and become a full-time, yogacharya. Yoga is something very much in your life, and you are also carrying forward the profession as an engineer, working in Siemens for the Grihastha Dharma. You are doing that, and you have added yoga as a seva in a kind of for the humanities. That's what I think you have been doing. Please continue, Rajendra ji. Please.
And exactly. And the Siemens is paying for my stomach and for my heart. Yoga for the last it's 16 and odd years. We raised more than close to $300,000, $3 lakh, for various humanitarian projects across the world. Maybe earthquake in New Zealand or Japan or America, that Katrina, and Australia had a bushfire beginning of this year. We contributed a big amount. And recent coronavirus, during this period, we have raised close to around $16,000 for various projects across India, right from Uttaranchal till Kerala. Like Goshala, Kashi Vishwanatha Temple, our ashrams, various ashrams, and COVID cases across Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. I'm not banking on this money. Whatever money I get from yoga, it should go to the community service. Yeah.
Excellent. So that is a wonderful, inspiration you are giving for many such people who are also in the path of Grihastha Dharma. They are householders. They are working for their family. At the same time, they can keep yoga along with that as a seva for the humanity, whatever they could do. It's not that you don't have to take the fees or collect donations, but you take it and use it for such wonderful cause as you have been doing. In fact, I remember even when I did a small initiative of rejuvenating an old temple, ancient temple in Tamil Nadu, and I went there during the flood service and then did some rehabilitation work there. You had even donated a small amount to us and helped us in that way. So I always thankfully remember that.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful thing. So that really, because I see a lot of people today who want to jump into yoga full time, depending on this. So even now, what has happened when the situation of Corona, COVID-19 started in India, especially here, these young people who are full-time yoga teachers who have been freelancing, especially they are not working in a particular institution, organization. If they are working in a school, an organization, that organization takes care of them, in some way, they're compensating them even during this lockdown. But these freelance, individual yoga teachers who are trying to go and, teach at different places, now lockdown started, everybody don't want to welcome any person to come to their house and, teach them or do something. So this becomes a problem for them. They have completely, because they've been fully depending on yoga for their family, their own personal ambitions. So with this economic crisis which have started, many are suffering a lot. So that is where, there is one category, maybe like people like me who have given up everything. We want to be as a kind of, pracharak kind of life. We are Naishtika, brahmacharis. So that is different. The society takes care of us. We don't have to literally worry in the situation. God is taking care of us. Society is taking care of us. Well-wishers are taking care of us. But individual, yoga teachers who have to take care of them, they struggle a lot. So people like you have set an example that, you have, for whatever you have educated, continue to have a profession, work, take care of your family, and also spend your good time. I was really of the impression that by now you must have given up your job, given up everything, and full time now taking care of the Yoga Institute and teaching yoga, because the way you are doing is not less than any of us full time who are doing yoga. The way in which you are doing, I could see not less than 1,000 YouTube videos which you have published, and there are not less than 2-3 books which you have published, which are very well received among the yoga sadhakas. And also equally you are involved in a lot of charity work, and you're associated with a lot of traditional ashrams and mutts where you go off and on and do. With all those, I was wondering that Rajendra ji must have given up his work, everything, and fully he's into yoga. That is why he is able to do this. This is really amazing to know, Rajendra ji, that you are balancing both and you are doing. So in this scenario, I would like to ask you, because nowadays people come to us, like when they are working in IT or any corporate setup and everything, they come telling us, that is so stressful that I'm not able to face the situation there, right? And therefore they come to yoga, they give up that and come to yoga and everything. Did you not face any situation anywhere in your career, in the work in Siemens or wherever you had worked, kind of stressful situation, and then you thought that yoga could have been, better than this, so let me leave this and come to yoga for full time? Did you ever think of that?
It's the stressful situation in Siemens. My manager, general manager, says the most calmest person on this floor is Rajendra. They used to say.
Yes, for sure.
And any new employee joins, they will send them to go past me and ask them to see how calm I am. Learn from that one. In the office, you had to be like that. In the office, even the general manager, they asked me to run classes for the employees also. I run that one time to time. Recently, Siemens published an article on mental health. it's by interviewing me about 5-6 pages, 10 tips for mental health, and it is circulated across Siemens world. And I can share it with you. About Siemens has around 400,000 employees. They sent it across the world. This when I'm adding value there also, and generally I don't take the workload stress back to home. And yoga has helped me to manage both well. And as Mundaka says, Dve Vidye Veditavya Para Apara. I need to both, and I have to set an example. Many people, when they are in trouble, they say, I don't want to deal with this one. I want to take sannyasa from here. I will run away. Running away is not the solution. Whatever God has given you it's a role, you execute that one well. And running away, many people back in India also, many IT people, they say they stressed out and they resigned and they wanted to do yoga, but heart is not there. But they're neither here nor there. And when the passion is there, you can manage both very well.
That's true. In fact, you are carrying the name of Vasudeva, Krishna, in the yoga center's name. That is what Krishna's message in the whole Gita. He didn't want Arjuna to run away. He wanted to prepare him with the yogic mindset. He said, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Whatever you do, all that it could be. So even to go and fight the war, be established in this yoga sthiti, be a yogastha, and then do the war. So I think you are setting a wonderful example in doing this, Rajendra. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
In your background, when we see, the wonderful kind of association that you had with great many Mahatmas, when you said your turning point started when you met your Guruji, Paramahamsa Maheshwaranandji Maharaj, and then Swami like Ram Sarupji. And I see that you are connected with a lot of traditional mutts of Karnataka, the South Indian mutts, the Udupi mutts, and all those things. So how have been your experiences with all these sadhus and Mahatmas? What is your message that you have learned from them being in their companionship?
It's the main is you mentioned the Mahatma, that Kapi, Pejar Swamiji, that he is it's a great yogi. He was a great yogi, very simple life, and he is a role model for all Mahatmas. And many Mahatmas, in the name of Swami, they have a very luxurious life, whereas he very bare minimum, and it's a great karma yogi, great bhakti yogi. He was an inspiration. That very simple life and down to earth and great concern for the whole society. And I had interacted with many times, and that was very uplifting for me. Because of that, I got associated with Vidyapita in Bangalore, where I have been teaching for maybe around 14-15 years. Every year when I go there, it's an institution started by him. The Gurukuls, it's all the Gurukul students, I teach them. And also the Puttige Swamiji, there is a Puttige Mata in Melbourne also there's a Puttige Mata, and I'm associated with him that whenever I go to India, Udupi, I teach in his Gurukula also, I teach there. And in Kanakpura, Om Shanti Dham, and our there also, Gurukula, they invite me, I go and teach there also. That great Acharya Satyavrata ji, it's very simple, very down to earth. I get attracted to those people, very simple life, not show off. I am get drawn towards those type of Mahatmas, and I want to contribute wherever I can. And
you have imbibed a lot of simplicity from them. I think you have imbibed a lot of simplicity from them also.
Thank you. I like not the show off and too much of bureaucratic, that one protocols. I don't like that one. That simple, simplicity. It's the hallmark of a yoga sadhaka. That is what I learned from them. Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. So when you say this, actually we see the traditional schools always they had their own reservations on various practices. For example, they would say that women should not do this or chant Omkara, and maybe not the others. You are in a country where people from all religions, everybody would come to do yoga. Yoga has been accepted by everybody. But whereas we still see in India, the traditional schools have their own kind of dogmatic views of certain things, like maybe they should not chant Om or the mantras or something. So how do you manage this traditional view and the modern outlook? How do you?
And though I am aware of that restriction, Om, and many they say women should not do yoga also. Sorry, yeah, and there is a. You're okay to talk? Can I talk?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. I am aware of that one, and since I have established my brand, when I go there, they don't object to me. They don't object to me, and many women also attend the classes in the ashrams, and if they are very conservative, I am not forcing them to say you have to say Om. Those who are able want to join, they will say. Otherwise, if they are not saying, it's also okay for me. We are not forcing them to do that one. And in the class, because of the, it's connected to the heads of the mutt also, connected to the heads of the ashram, and women also attend, but I don't force them to say. If they are not interested in saying, or if they think it is not right, they don't say. But those who are able to join, they will join with me.
Okay. So, and how is the encouragement from the sadhus from India about your work in Australia and other countries? How do they receive it? Do they welcome it that you are going and doing it in other countries also? So how do they look upon that aspect?
And first of all, when I go to the Gurukul, I don't expect anything, any appreciation from them. First of all, I am concerned. I want to add value to the Gurukula Vidyarthis. My passion is that one, and it's in the Gurukula also. If I go to Gurukula, that Adhyapaka or the principal, they think yoga, they think yoga and all for the lower class. We have Vedanta, we have studied the Vedanta, it is not for me. It's a traditional school. Many, they think that one. Vedanta, yoga and all, it's for the inferior type. I am an elevated one. And Vedanta, it is for that one. I am not worried about some faculty members if they are not attending, but every year they invite me, that heads of the mutts, they invite me, but not all the staff attend that one. They think Vedanta is far superior than yoga.
But what is your say on it? What do you think? Is Vedanta, yoga all goes together, or is there something like something is superior, something is inferior? What is your personal say on that, Rajendra?
No, I always tell here also that in the traditional schools, long time back, many hundreds of years back, in a Gurukula, they used to teach both Vedanta and yoga, both together. Now, Vedanta school has gone separate and yoga school has gone separate. And Vedanta schools, they don't teach yoga. Yoga schools, they don't teach Vedanta. And these two should go together. And my interest is my yoga class. It is a combination of yoga and Vedanta. It has to go together, and that is my attempt in the Western countries.
So how do they take it when you teach there in the Western countries? How do they take these two things together when you present them? Yoga, Vedanta, and some devotional aspects, everything. How do they receive it there in the Western countries?
No, it's everyone says they haven't come across this dimension. It is a unique combination and something for the soul. All that students, they keep coming, they say that something, I give the nourishment for the soul also, not only for the physical body. It's a body, mind and soul. It's a complete package. That is the product differentiator was the Kriya Yoga with other schools.
So when you say Kriya Yoga, we already had a very popular tradition of Kriya Yoga started by Paramhamsa Yogananda. And of course, Kriya Yoga, Patanjali himself in the second chapter, Sadhana Pada, when he starts only, he talks of Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. He starts with Kriya Yoga. And we have this tradition of this Mahavatar Babaji and Paramhamsa Yogananda, very popularized through the autobiography of the yogis. There is something called Kriya Yoga. And we have something like the Shat Karma, the Shat Kriya in the Hatha Yoga, the Jalaneti, Sutraneti, Trataka, Kapalapati. That is another Kriya, Shat Kriya, which is there. So what is this Kriya Yoga exactly what Rajendra ji is teaching in the brand of Vasudeva Kriya Yoga? Are they same? Is it the same as what Paramhamsa Yogananda had taught? Is it the same what Patanjali has put forth in the Yoga Sutra? Is it the same with Hatha Yoga, Shat Kriyas, or is it different from all these what you are teaching?
No, in our yoga classes we do Shat Karma Kriyas also. We do that one. And as you mentioned, Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhani Kriya Yoga, that is also yoga. Yoga means it's one is it's devotion should be there. Tapas, you should do it as a tapas and with a lot of swadhyaya, introspection and devotion. That is another dimension. And the third part, Kriya Yoga, that what we teach is the pranayama technique. Pranayama technique and synchronize the breathing along with the mantra. You do it mentally. By doing so, your breathing rate slows down. When the breathing rate slows down, you settle down in your life. Your mind becomes very calm and serene. You can handle challenges in your life. And you get very grounded. You slow down your breathing, synchronize with the mantra.
So that is speciality of Vasudeva Kriya Yoga. What you are
that's right, yeah. And also Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva mantra. That mantra is synchronized with the breathing and breathing technique. And it has been proven many people that it's various mental issues they have seen the relief through this Kriya Yoga.
Very nice. So is it like you have also, you said there are many people who got good benefits and proven. Have you taken up any such research studies on how it has been impacting on their lives or on their health through Vasudeva Kriya Yoga?
The research, no formal research, but every class numbers are increasing. That itself is a testimony that it is having a benefit, benefit on people. And for example, in India, to do a formal research like Vivekananda Yoga Institute, like data collection and parameter checking, and we are not geared up for those.
Like you have been connected with S Vyasa itself for so many years, and many times you have invited Guruji, Dr. Nagendra ji, and other team members from S Vyasa have hosted many of their programs, conferences, and events like that. And whenever you come here to India, also, I'm sure you make it a point to go there and teach there also. Even now, through online sessions, you have been teaching some of the sessions for S Vyasa also. I think it's a good thing that you can, take up some research with S Vyasa, being collaborating and taking some of the things with Vasudeva Kriya Yoga, how it's impacting people, so that it goes a long way, for generations. What has been documented through this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a good thought. And Dr. Nagendra ji, along with for International Day of Yoga, he's one of the speakers. We organized. Thanks to coronavirus, we are doing International Day of Yoga in a real international way by connecting with various yoga schools from Japan, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Australia, and India. And Swami Paramahamsa Maheshananji will be giving a talk, and as well as Dr. Nagendra ji will be conveying a message also. That is, yeah, it is happening.
When you are telling about Paramahamsa Maheshwaranji Maharaj, though he is a very well-known global leader of yoga spirituality, but still not many in India here are very familiar with him, especially in the South, people are not familiar with him. Can you just share some insights about Swamiji and his works, and also how he had been contributing in the field of yoga spirituality?
And he went to Europe in early 70s, 1970s, and he, businessmen took him. And in the Yugoslavia, he was especially popular in ex-communist country, and no religion was allowed. And that he popularized that one. Even communist governments could accept that one because it was having a positive impact on the people. Yugoslavia, Croatia, Slovakia, Slovenia, and those parts became very popular. Hungary, and especially he's very popular in European countries, and he traveled to Russia also. And that part, he has many centers in many countries, and mainly he's very popular among the European people. In Croatia, he has big ashram. In Rajasthan, he hasn't lost the contact with his motherland. He's building what is called as Om Ashram, and Om Ashram, that it's a huge 100 meter by 100 meter. It's all pink stone, 3-storied. It's 108 big halls. And, maybe it will be close to 1,000 crore project or even more, and it will put Taj Mahal to shame. Okay. Such a big program. It's all pink stone. It's a
This is going to be the shape of Omkara.
Omkara. It is Om Ashram. People can Google Om Ashram in Rajasthan. It's huge. And he runs a Goshala also. It's an arid place, a dry place. He has more than 600, 700 cows, cattle. People in the hot summer, they leave the animals away, rescue animals. He collects them and looks after them, and organic living. And it was such a dry place, Pali district. What he did, it rains maybe 1 month a year, and he did, with the help of United Nations project, he got funding for water conservation. He built a huge tank, maybe 200 meter by 200 meter. He has a huge ashram, maybe a few hectares, and 200 by 2, it's water harvesting. Whatever water is collected, he put a tarpaulin underneath so that water doesn't get go into the ground. Tarpaulin, all water gets connected. Still, whatever water gets leaked, it goes into the ground. Because of that one, it's a rainwater. They get enough rainwater, maybe 1 month. The tank is full, and because of water is getting leaked into the ground, in the Pali district, around that ashram, everyone's borewell or well is full. Water has gone, water level has gone up. Water level has gone up, and that ashram, he has converted into a green place. You won't, if you go there, you won't say it is a desert. It has become green. He planted so many trees, and it is a green land. It is like a green land. It's like he has a lot of passion for looking after the environment and sustainable living. For decades, he has been telling in the Europe also, for the people attend his camp or ashrams, people need to bring their own cutlery, plates, no use and throw. And if you are like in India, you use the paper and just throw it. Minimize the usage. No plastic. and you have to bring your own. So that slowly lifestyle has changed, and now it is implemented across Germany also. For Germany, um, also they're propagating that in the European countries. Now global awareness is there: no plastic, no plastic fork, and also he is a staunch advocate of vegetarianism. Because of him, many European people have become vegetarian,
Wow.
and they have stayed away from meat and protection of environment. They have become vegetarian and environmental protection, and he has shown by example in Rajasthan. They are all very commendable work he has done, and regularly he addresses a big gathering of environmental protection also, and he is connected with many prime ministers of many countries in the European countries. He's well connected, and they have a lot of respect for what he is doing. And he doesn't shy away, even if you go to a church, and he won't shy away from saying that you should not kill animals. He will, even to the head of the church, he will openly say, you have to, they also have life. And in Christianity, they for convenience, they say only humans have life. The animals do not have soul. They say so that they can eat. Animals do not have soul, and only humans have soul. That concept, they modified that one for their convenience, and he's very vocal about that one also. And it's his works also an inspiration for me.
Very true, very true. I think it's a lot of inspiration that we get from Paramahamsa Maheshwaranand, because it's not just, people, yoga people, spiritual people don't just teach yoga philosophy and stop there, telling that Bhagavan is everywhere, Isha Vasamidagam Sarvam, but they look into that presence of even the name Vasudeva you're carrying for the yoga. Krishna says Vasudeva Sarvaviti Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. One who sees Vasudeva's presence everywhere, and that is what is translated to the seva that they do. Mahatmas are such people. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. They make the tirtha kshetras to become tirtha kshetras. A place like Rajasthan, where he goes and brings green belt there, that is something amazing, the dedicated work. Because we think the Swamijis are only people who are come and give some pravachan and give some diksha and then take dakshina and go away. That's why I purposefully asked this, because I was aware of the work which Swamiji does. So you being a Shishya, closely associated with him for decades, so if you could share that, it will be nice. That's where I asked about him, Rajendra. Thank you so much for.
And it is a good. It's a good platform. Many yogis will be watching your program, and some inspiration. That we also, our yoga should not be confined to yoga mat. Exactly. We should take it beyond into a practical level, so that it's you are an inspiration for the society around you.
Very true, very true. That is why, I wanted to ask you about it. And in your teaching yoga in Australia, I think there was a milestone when the International Day of Yoga started. You were invited by the Australian Parliament to come there and teach yoga for the Australian Parliament. And for years, I think now it is set as a trend. It is going on. Even this year, I'm sure you're going to go and teach there, or even from wherever you are online, you must be teaching for the parliamentarians of Australia. So how did this started, and how do you see this as an experience in introducing yoga to the parliament and teaching to the politicians there? And how is that experience, Rajendra?
And since 2008, I have been running international conferences, inviting various speakers, and like 108 Surya Namaskar. That also I started around 2012. Every year it has been going. And in 2015, when Modi ji, through him, through our Guruji Nagendra ji and our Modi ji could able to speak in the United Nations and made them to declare 21st of June as International Day of Yoga. And Indian Consulate General here in Melbourne, she was coming to my class anyway, and she said, can we do it together? With the help of Indian Consulate, we did it outside the Parliament of Victorian Parliament. outside. It was, now it is a very cold time. In June is a winter month here, very cold. Early morning, 7 o'clock, maybe maybe 100 or 150 people on the footsteps. We did yoga. It came in the paper and well advertised. And following year, and parliamentarians, we approached the parliament. They were very welcoming. And every year, one of the parliamentarians, John, that he is no more a MP. He used to take personal interest. He used to book a hall, Queen's Hall, and he used to get the permission from the speaker. And he was an active member, active participant. And every year we have been running. And in 2018, we approached the federal parliament through another local community leader, Sri Rampal. Rampal, he is associated with, he is heading the multicultural department of Liberal Party. Now the Liberal Party is in government. He is heading the president of multicultural affairs. And through him, we went to the federal parliament. Even the ex-prime minister and many MPs attended that one. And our High Commissioner also attended the program. For this year, High Commissioner also approached us. We are doing a joint program online, online with the Indian High Commission and Vasudhaiva Kriya Yoga. And we have invited the parliamentarians to be part of that one. Many parliamentarians have accepted the invitation. And we are conveying the message, yoga. For example, in this corona lockdown situation, mental health is a big problem. Exactly. In Australia spends about $15 billion, about 15, 20, even more than 20 to 30% of their health budget for mental health. Mental health is a very big problem. We think Western country is a rosy country, very, very financially well off. Maybe they have physical comfort is there, but mentally shattered. That it has to be addressed. And suicidal rates among the teenagers is rampant. School-going children, they run into the railway line and commit suicide. No direction for the life. And councils invite me to address to the teenagers also. Wow. And now they're coming to know yoga is adding value, not only physical, also mental health. Mental health, so that health of a country depends on the mind. And mental health, they recognize that part, and they invite me to the parliament, and they are supportive of our work.
Wow, very nice. That's really nice to know from you that the parliamentarians are welcoming yoga. They are very keen in doing it, and also the strategy, the scenario there, like how people are affected with mental health issues, is something very well you brought out. And how is it now with this situation, COVID-19, after it started? How is the situation there at a country like Australia?
And Australia, even the lockdown, because of the lockdown, domestic violence has gone up significantly. Divorce rate has gone up because of the lockdown. And it's too much of, you're not going out and meeting the same person. And it's again boils down to, in the article it was there, drinking, alcohol consumption has gone up significantly. In the lockdown, we don't know how to deal with ourselves.
I think even in India here, the first thing to open was, after the lockdown, the first thing to open was not temples, not schools, but the government, especially in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, they opened the wine shops and bars first, and we saw people going in huge queues and buying their stock of alcohol and all those things. So this was also, kind of a scenario here. So yeah, please go ahead, Rajendra.
No, thinking that they can drown the sorrows. They can't. And it's alcohol consumption. It has a, it's a vicious cycle, has an impact on the mind also. It's alcohol consumption has gone up, and it is flow and effect on the children also. Children also, teenagers are drinking at home when the parents themselves when they do not have value, what value they can impart to the children. And yoga is a need of an hour to how to lead a uplifted life, and it will add value to the community. It's many Westerners also attending the class, and they really appreciate the tradition, Indian tradition, the values India stands for. They have great respect for India through attending yoga. Now, by attending yoga, they appreciate how great is the country, what are the values, what we lack. Through yoga, my service, I am adding value to the glory of India through yoga by bringing out these.
Here we are there in India, and we think, those countries are the best, West is the best, and, we think like that. So it's very inspiring to hear from you that people there, they, get to know about the glory of India, and they really respect the Indian value system, family values, and all those things. So how do you think that, we have in the yoga system, yama, niyama, the don'ts and do's, ahimsa, satya, asteya, and all those things. So how do you think are very relevant even in this situation, even worldwide? How do people take those value systems of yama, niyama from yoga?
Yama and niyama, I don't, though now I'm covering the series of yama and niyama, on YouTube is there, but I try to talk not from the traditional point of view, how it is relevant in the modern days, so that it is very palatable. They can relate to the modern day life. In the Western life or modern day life, I bring it in the modern day context, and they really appreciate. And these values, many of them, they say it's forgotten. We are supposed to, these are the pillars of yoga, foundation of yoga. We have forgotten about that one. Thank you for enlightening. For one of the Sardarjis last week, he said he was a non-vegetarian. After attending this one, he has made his whole family vegetarian. And now it's we think eating meat and drinking, it's the vogue, it's the tradition. Now whole family. And he says every day he will make it a point that he will sit for meditation before every morning and evening. It's the impact of yoga. It is a positive impact. Even children also, initially questioning, they also follow. Slowly, it's a energy in the home slowly is changing.
Very nice. That's amazing to know that they are adapting also, not just they are appreciating, but they're able to adapt the Indian value systems and do that. And that is really wonderful work which you are able to influence them also, Rajendra ji. Last, just I would like to know from you now, in this situation of Corona, COVID-19, we are not sure, we are not certain how long the situation will go, what is going to happen. What do you think is yoga's relevance in this contemporary scenario?
And I told in the class also, and in Vishnu Sahasranam also, we talk about Lokadhyaksha, Suradhyaksha, Adhyaksha, Supreme God, the Lord, we call him as a manager, the most efficient manager. I may be a manager in the company where I'm working. Maybe 2 people, 3 people may be reporting to me, but I don't know what they do at home or what they do when I'm not there. But he knows each and everything to the minutest details, completely. And whatever it is happening in the current situation, it is not happening without his knowledge. It is his way. We were earlier, we had no regard for others. We had no regard for the other animals. We think we are the only, humans are only the custodian of this world. We used to recklessly destroy the environment. Now, because of the corona situation, they were saying that Yamuna river in Delhi is almost crystal clear. Ganga has become crystal clear. In the fish, aquatic life is come back. Pollution level has come down. And many European rivers and the Thames River, it's a pollution. Pollution has come down. The toxins going into the river stream has come down, and it is a time to heal. The earth has to heal. Otherwise, at this rate, it was not sustainable. It's a sustainable. It is a way he put every one of us into jail. You stay inside, and let me repair. It's a healing process. We have to see it from other side. It is for the good cause. Our birds are happy. Fishes are happy. Animals are in Tirupati. I saw that one. Mountains, wild animals are roaming freely. Everyone is happy. And we are not the only custodian. We are one among the 82 lakh species, whatever it is. Talking about 8.4 million species, we are one among them. What about others? He said, you keep quiet now, let other 8.4 minus 1 repair themselves. It is, we have to see it from that point, and it's a healing process. We yoga practitioners, we have to use this opportunity. Since March, we are under lockdown. We won't get this opportunity again and again. And this lockdown, instead of like our Indian Prime Minister, he said, we have to use this crisis as an opportunity. We yoga practitioners, when things are not under our control, this lockdown, we have to utilize to do lot of sadhana. We won't get this opportunity again. Do the japa and your sadhana, and read the Shastras, Ramayana, Bhagavata, Rama, Mahabharata, the text you do the inner sadhana. It's an opportunity, God given is a time to go within. We are not going out much. That travel time, suppose if I am going to work, 1 hour travel, Jayanagar to Whitefield, if I'm IT professional, it is 2 hours each way. Now, 2 hours each way, 4 hours extra you have, do some sadhana. 3 hours, 4 hours, utilize that one. You are working from home. This opportunity, you won't get it again. And it's a God's blessing. God's grace, He is urging all of us, sit, do the sadhana. This is an opportunity to connect
in all my interaction with all these people in the path of yoga, everybody are looking at it. This is the drishti. This is the perspective that they all are looking into this as an opportunity, not as a challenge. But though difficulties are there, people, common men are also suffering a lot, not be able to do their works. Like people who are in IT and other things, they can sit in home and work. There is a a vendor who has to roam around the streets and then still do his work. So there are drivers and other people, because transportations are not happening. They are still suffering, and that crisis is always there. And governments are trying to do their best to support them. But as you rightly said, using this also as an opportunity to do a lot of things, sadhana, I think that can help the majority of the world. And I'm so glad to hear those wonderful words. So the order of the divine.
And also, if the problem is there, no point in saying I have problem. If I can't solve that one, not to brood on the problem all the time. It makes your mind depressed. It goes into anxiety. And only solution, kashta bandaga Krishna helabarat. That it's an opportunity. If I say I have problem, nothing but I myself will become a problem for others. If I keep on saying I have problem, then I am a problem for others.
Very nice.
And always, my Swami Ramasarupananji, he used to say he had a heart attack when he came to Melbourne in 2006. I think he had a heart attack. Now his left hand is paralyzed. Still, it is not working. But still, if I ask him, how are you? He will say A1. And he won't say, my hand is not working, I have problem. These Mahatmas we have to learn. Always don't say, I have problem, I have this one. A1. How are you, Swamiji? A1.
He had come here, even the same place where I'm sitting from and talking to you. Swami Ram Sarup had come here, sat, and he had conducted a satsang for all our yoga sadhakas at Adhyatma Yoga.
Oh, excellent.
When he had come to Bangalore 2 years back. So even now he keeps sending all the messages, information at Uttar Kashi, what he is.
Yeah, very nice, very nice, very nice.
Same place he has sat here, and we had a wonderful time being with him, talking with him. So,
excellent, yeah.
Very nice, Rajendra ji, for sharing all these wonderful insights. And what is, where is the Vasudeva Kriya Yoga going to be, from 10 years from now? What is your future plan?
And looking at my videos, in Chicago, we are opening a center. In America, it is being registered. And from UK Parliament also, people are participating in my yoga. And in Brazil also, he is a great ardent Catholic, he said. And he was so appreciative of the contribution of Indian rishis. And he was very thanking me immensely for introducing that one, connecting back to the glory of India. He wants me to set up a center in Brazil. And I will continue to do that one as it unfolds. I will look into that one. But as a yoga name itself says, connect. Wherever you can, you connect with others.
Very nice, very nice. So we are hoping to see, Vasudeva Kriya Yoga and Rajendra ji's teachings go and spread all over, and may more and more people get benefited out of all your wonderful teachings. And thank you so much, Rajendra ji, for joining with us in this 12th episode. As you rightly said, Vasudeva is the Dwadasakshari mantra, 12th with 12 aksharas, and then we have the 12th episode of Kapi Kashaya with Yogi. Very nice to see a wonderful, dedicated, humble, Yogi. There are not many people who are in the field, coming up, and very great vidya they have. They're all great vidwans, scholarly people, practitioners, and experiential knowledge what they have got. But something what you have always radiated is the simplicity, the humility that you have demonstrated, which is, we know why it is, because you have been with such Mahatmas who have been so great in their sadhana, in their work. Same time they have been so down to earth, so humble. So you have set an example by balancing your worldly life of carrying, continuing your work and the Grihastha Dharma, and also teaching yoga, and through that, not just in a simple way, but in a very profound way, that it is reaching far and wide throughout many countries in the world, influencing thousands and thousands of people all through the years. So you have set a wonderful example of both the para and apara, how to take ahead. And I'm so glad to be associated with you. Thank for your time that you have come to us, even though it will be an odd time. You are talking from Melbourne, Australia. I'm talking from Bangalore, India. We have different time zones, but that's what yoga is, bringing us together. It transcends the time, it transcends all boundaries, and that is yoga. And we're all in the same path. And thank you so much for joining with us for this wonderful episode. I hope to have more such sessions, more such learning from you.
Thank you, Subbubai ji, that I would like to be in touch with you, and I would like to be part of all the great works you are doing. In 2009, along with Guruji, you came to Amrita Yoga Kendra along with Guruji, and as you mentioned, you you revived the traditional temple in Tamil Nadu as well as in around Tirthahalli. Tirthahalli is at around there also. You go to the remote places to connect to the local people and convey the message and inspire the people. And I would like to be in contact with you and join hands with your great works also. Thank you very much. Thank you. Greetings to all the viewers also. I immensely thank Subbu Bhai for connecting with all the inspirers and to inspire others, and his selfless service to the community. I wish him all the best, and may Lord Vasudeva bless his divine path. Pranam.
I think we will, the best way to conclude today's session is to chant Vasudeva Nama. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Thank
Om
you.
Namo
And in
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.